So we are on Module 5, Lesson 2, page 2. And I did remember to number these pages, so you can just look at the bottom. So we're first going to start with using the distributive property. So our goal in this chapter is to be able to solve equations and solve inequalities. Well, first we have to know what like terms are. Then we have to know how to combine like terms. Then we have to know how to do the distributive property. So these are all things you do at the beginning of an algebra problem before you start solving. So we're covering all the little prerequisite skills that go into solving an equation, which we'll be doing next week. Maybe some this week, we'll see. So find each product by using the distributive property. So when there's a number right beside parentheses, that means times. If there's no symbol, that means multiplication. So you're doing 3 times 11y plus 3 times 6. That's what distributive means. Take that 3, which is outside parentheses, telling us it goes with everything inside, and then make sure your answers are in the proper order. So 3 times 11y, 33y. Positive times a positive plus 3 times 6, 18. And I would encourage you to always do those arrows with distributive, because there's so many times I'll be grading tests and students write 33y plus 6 because they forgot the arrows, didn't put them in, whatever reason, and then they forgot to distribute. They just multiplied the 3 by the first item. Okay, so try the next two. Shut off your video for a minute or two to do those, and then join back up with me and we'll check them. Okay, for this one I need to be careful with my signs because we have a negative out here, and I also need to be careful and make sure to distribute to every single thing inside. So there's 3 terms inside, so I have to distribute to all 3. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative times a positive is negative, and I always do my signs first so I never miss them. Negative times a positive is negative. 4 times 0.2 is 0.8. And then the y. And anytime you need to use your calculator is fine. You can use your calculator on all your tests in this class and quizzes. And here, a negative times a negative is positive. That's usually where students miss this right there. 2 negatives equal positive 12. And then I look to see if it's in the proper order. X, y, and the constant. Yep, we're good to go. And anytime there's a negative in front, that means negative 1. So you put a negative 1 there and you multiply it by every single term inside, and there happens to be 4 terms inside. So when you multiply by negative 1, to summarize, all you're doing is changing all the signs. A negative times a positive is negative 3x. A negative times a positive is negative 2y. And remember, this is 1z. A negative times a positive is negative 1z. And usually in our answers, we don't write the ones, but I just put that there so you could see it's negative 1 times positive 1, which is negative 1z. And then 2 negatives equal a positive. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Then I check to see if the order's correct. Alphabetical, X, Y, Z, constants at the end. There we go. So hopefully everybody did good on that. So more distributive. And I know there's at least 2 on your test. There may be more, but I can think of 2 right off the top of my head towards the beginning of the test. So when the parentheses only cover some of the terms, only draw your arrows to those terms inside. So 4 times 4x would be 16x. A positive times a negative is negative. 4 times 6 is 24. And then you just bring the plus 20 down. So what that means is first we do the distributive, because please excuse my dear Aunt Sally says always get rid of your parentheses first. Then I must combine like terms, because remember, simplify means remove parentheses and combine like terms. You write this for your answer, it will be counted wrong. It is not simplified because there are 2 like terms there. So 16x stays in front because x's go before constants. The signs are different, so I subtract. 24 minus 20 is 4, and I keep the sign of the larger minus. So that would be my answer. I can't go further than that because these are not like terms and cannot be added. Okay, so why don't you guys try the next 2? You learn the best from practicing on your own first. So go ahead and turn off the video and try B and C, and then come back and join me and we will check them together. For this first one, we have negative 3 times 7x and negative 3 times 1. So that would be negative 21x, because a negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a positive, negative 3. Then I have another distribution, and this time I have to put that 1 in again because it's like the one above. So it's negative 1 times 4x, negative 1 times negative 2. So that would be a negative 4x. And a negative times a negative would be positive 2. And then because the directions say simplify, even if they didn't say simplify, you could never write this as an answer because you have like terms there that need to be combined. So we have a negative 21x and a negative 4x, which gives us negative 25x. When the signs are the same, add and keep the sign. And then we have a negative 3 plus 2. The signs are different, so I subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, and I keep the sign of the larger, negative. So everybody do okay on that one? And last but not least, big error by students on this one. I see this a lot on tests. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally says multiplication comes before addition. These 2 numbers will never be added, but consistently I'll see students just go left to right on a problem. Never. You have to keep following the order of operations. So multiplication comes before addition. M-A. So multiplication must be done first. So you just bring the 8 down and you start your distributive. 11 times 2y, 11 times negative 9. So this would be plus 22y, and a positive times a negative, negative 99. So 8 plus 22y minus 99. So remember, my variable goes first. So this would be 22y out in front, positive 8, negative 99 are different signs, so we subtract. 99 minus 8 is 91, and keep the sign of the larger, negative. So that set of 6 problems is what we call distributive property and simplifying. And then I put a little review in, some more translating, because like I said, it's on all of our tests. So we're going to keep practicing, practicing, practicing. So subtract 10 from 8. So what several students do on the test is they write 10 minus 8. That is not subtracting 10 from 8. That's subtracting 8 from 10 if you write 10 minus 8. So the number that it's coming from must be listed first. This is 8 minus 10 because 10 is being subtracted from 8. So that's another little tricky one for students. So that must be first because it said from 8. And then it says to simplify. A positive and a negative tells me to subtract. Keep the sign of the larger. Subtract A from B. That means B has to be listed first. So this is B minus A. Okay, I'm going to let you do C, because that's one that's on the test. So good one to practice on. So make sure you put the correct one first. Make sure, because they're both double terms, they're in parentheses. And then do your subtraction. So go ahead and shut the video off and join me after you finish. And notice the directions also say simplify. So after you're done, be sure and after you write the problem, be sure and simplify it. Since this says from 4x plus 6, that must be first. Just like from B first, from 8 first, from 4x plus 6. And usually what I see students do wrong here, they don't miss the order so much, but they forget to put parentheses. And then they get the whole problem wrong because 1, they translated it wrong, and 2, that makes them work it wrong as well. You're subtracting this whole thing from this whole thing, so they must both be in parentheses. And that's usually where the errors are made on that problem, is students forget that. So this one, there's nothing to distribute or anything, so I can drop the parentheses. But on this one, we have -1. As you can see, that's a pretty common problem. This is the third one on this page that has a negative in front. So that gives you a little hint. That's a pretty common problem on your test and quiz. Not having a number in front, so you put the 1. So -1 times 7x is -7x. -1 times -1 is +1. Because a negative times a negative is positive. 1 times 1 is 1. And then it says to simplify. So now we have to do what we were doing earlier. So 4x minus 7x, the signs are different, so we subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3,